This podcast represents the opinions of the hosts of the Laugh Cry Club and guests on the show. The content here should not be taken as medical advice and is for informational purposes only. And because each person is so unique, please consult your healthcare professional for any medical questions. While we make every effort to ensure that the information we share is accurate, we welcome any comments, suggestions, or correction of errors. Welcome back, everybody, to the Laugh Cry Club. I'm Joy.
I'm Rebecca.
I'm Chelsea, and if you are an imperfect human who laughs and cries, then this podcast is for you, and possibly a friend or a loved one or somebody who just needs some psychological tips and tricks from 3 licensed therapists. Welcome!
This might be a nice way to tell people maybe you need therapy, but you don't want to say that. So you're just like, this podcast, sometimes you have to do some reverse psychology and you're like, I love this podcast. Listen to it. It made me really smile. And then maybe they listen to it and they're like, maybe I need therapy.
Yeah.
It's a nice way to play mind games with people. Let's be honest. I'm kidding.
Right.
All right. Well,
I'll say it's not a replacement for therapy, right? But this is free to you all.
It's a taste of therapy. We are 3 licensed therapists.
Appetizer.
It's an appetizer of therapy. We are 3 licensed therapists. We have loads and loads of experience. Let's just call it what it is. We are experts in this field. We know a lot about mental health, and we're here to normalize the human experience. We're not experts at being humans, but we're trying our best, and that is really what matters because we all experience a bazillion emotions a day. So we're here to normalize that and make you feel less alone.
And the best part about this being an appetizer is that there's a variety here, right? We have 3 unique humans, 3 experts in the area of psychology, but all different backgrounds, all different lived experiences, and all different types of work that we've done. So,
Right.
you know, one of us may not be your favorite cup of tea, but the other one could be.
Yeah.
Or you could just share little parts of the appetizer.
This is like a
right?
tapas. This is like a tapas
It is
restaurant. We're
tapas.
tapas.
Yes, we are tapas. And hopefully you eat each bite, you're like, oh my God, that was so good. So good. And then you're like, I want to share it with a friend because it was so satiating and so good. And it brought a little something extra that I may or may not have been used to.
Every episode. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're really diving into the analogies here on this one. Right out of the gate.
Leave it to me to do this.
We love it. Well, with every episode, we start with our laugh and our cry. We have a topic of the week, and we will tease a topic for next week. So who wants to go? Chelsea, who's nominating? Who are you nominating?
Well, I'm going to nominate myself this week for my laugh and my cry. I do want to share that I've been having some improvement with my crying, which is really, it's helpful to not always be a blubbering mess. So my laugh and my cry, it goes together. This is what happens right now in this stage of my life. So I'm at this political campaign thing for in my town. There's elections coming up for like mayor and different parts of city council and blah, 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 blah. So I go to this sort of who's thing, which because we're in Alabama, it's at a bar.
Of course it is. Isn't it required to be at a bar?
Yeah, it's at a bar. And, you know, so I'm at a bar. I'm with one of my girlfriends. And this man comes up to me and he's talking chit chat, right? It's a political thing. So people are kind of like schmoozing, I guess, or whatever, if that's the word. He's clearly uncomfortable and just like trying to fill the air with some words. And, well, I'm assuming, says, so what do you do to me? Like, what's my job? And this is where grief really fucks you up. I look at him and say, I don't do anything. My husband died. What the fuck, Chelsea? That's what I said. And he's like, what? And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm actually a therapist. And it's just like, I don't know what to say because I'm not working right now because I'm on a break. And then I don't know. It's weird. Like, I'm on a break because my husband died. Like, you don't need to know all of this. I'm so sorry. I just made you feel uncomfortable. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, it just falls out of my mouth. And so then I'm like laughing, but inside I'm like dying. I'm like laughing like, ugh, at the ick of all of it. And I didn't cry in that moment. But when I got home that night, I was just like, oh my gosh, like when does it stop? And when I say when does it stop, I don't mean the grief. I mean like feeling like I don't have any control of what falls out of my mouth. And I don't have any more of that sort of like, you can kind of like fake politeness or fake chit chat. Like in my regular day-to-day pre-tragedy of the death of Steve, I wasn't good at it anyways. I've worked too hard to be authentic. I've done all the self-work to be who I am, wherever I go. Very transparent. But now it's almost like I don't even have that intentional pause where I would just pivot out of something I don't care to talk about. I just wouldn't really, I would do something else that wasn't that saying, I don't work right now, my husband's dead. Like, ugh. So that was my laugh cry. So I went home that night and it makes me tear up. I went home and I was laying in bed and I actually had a really lovely night. And I talked to Steve often and I was just like, babe, oh my God, like, it's like just like not a second that goes by that this isn't my whole world. Even when I'm in other parts of my world, I don't know how to describe it. It's like this unwavering closeness that never isn't close. And it's like, I can feel like, oh, I'm doing better. I'm not crying as much. I can do this. And then something like this happens and it's like I am totally hijacked and it's just palpable. So my laugh and my cry, my laugh of like, oh my God, and feeling so terrible for this person in front of me. And then my cry of being like, will there ever be 1 second? And then not wanting there to be 1 second because 1 second is far away, if that makes sense. Like if I'm 1 second where I'm not feeling Steve, then it feels like 1 second too far. Ugh. Now I'm crying. So
Chelsea, I love you. That's beautiful. Yeah. That's so beautiful. And I know you said that you felt ick and you were like, but I mean, for what it's worth, as an outsider and your friend, I'm like, that totally tracks. And I know we're mental health therapists and we are comfortable with all the emotions, but to me, that's just this testament of the grief process of living it as your job 24/7. So I like your brain immediately was like, this has been my job 24/7. When they're like, what do you do? Because that is what you have been doing.
Yeah.
And because you're just this like walking, authentic, loving human, of course, that's the first thing out of your mouth. And because we often kind of go to this place of like, well, I have to have this filter on when I'm in public. Of course, you're going to like question, how did that person take that? But this is where it's kind of like that thing you said at the beginning, like right after Steve passed away, you're like, I wish like you didn't want to leave your house because you kind of wish that, who was I talking to? Maybe it was you guys. Maybe it was I think it might have been Marianne, our dear friend Marianne was like, I wish we could wear black all the time when we're in grief to signify to people that we're grieving or whatever. Wear something that's like, so the public knows, handle with care.
Yeah.
That is just, it's so hard to exist when that has been your full-time job is grief. So I just wanted to say that. And it's beautiful. The 1 second thing, just, I feel that in my heart and I love you.
I feel like also what you're experiencing, Chelsea, is like grief feels like it stripped you naked and you didn't want to be. And you're totally exposed. It feels very exposed. And you just lose the filter because it's like, I kind of have zero fucks right now about anything else besides what I'm going through. And it's a very strange feeling as a therapist to be in that mindset because we're always so compassionate and outwardly focused on other people's emotions and feelings. And then, gosh, when you're going through immense grief, it's like you can't do anything else for other people. That's why, you've taken a step back and you're trying to find yourself again.
This is so helpful because, what you said of it, yes, grief is my job right now. And I keep thinking that when I write, like there's nothing more important right now than honoring this tremendous loss. So it is my job right now. You're right. And Rebecca, to your point, as therapists, it's in our core of who we are as humans to be compassionate and give grace to other people. And I think that's what happens is I feel almost abrasive to just spit this thing out. And it would feel inauthentic to not say it, but maybe in a different way. I don't know. Maybe right now I'm just like working. Maybe my job is I say that, but whatever. It doesn't matter. It's fine. I do have a lot of grace for myself right now because I specialize in grief, and I'm like, however you get through is however you get through, and that's it, and there's no judgment. But that was really helpful, so thank you. Okay, so
can I say one more thing?
Yeah, always. And then I'm gonna nominate you. How about that? Then you can say something and flow into yours. Okay, good.
And it's also this is new territory. You've never done this before. And so there is, again, I know we know this is like there's no roadmap, there's no right way, there's no wrong way. And it's exploring a new you that you didn't sign up for. And you're kind of like, whoa, that's something that I have never experienced before. And like the questioning and we want to caretake for other people and make, oh gosh, I hope I didn't make them feel uncomfortable. But I guess I'm just kind of reiterating that giving grace of like, at the end of the day, this is all about honoring Steve and your love for Steve. And if it shows up by blurting out and saying, I don't know, my husband died, I do nothing. Like, Steve, we love you. Like that's how I see it.
Now I'm sobbing. Thank you.
Yeah. I just got the chills. I think he's here in some
do too.
way. I just like, whew.
Oh
I got like
God.
full body chills,
Me
which I
too.
don't get. So I think he's saying hello. We'll take a minute.
Yeah, I just get that like, you're okay, Chelsea. That's what I heard. That's what I hear. Like, you're okay. Ugh. And none of it's okay. It's so fucked. Okay. Nominating our sweet, wise Joy, who's made me cry 45 times in the last 16 minutes.
Now she's going to make you laugh.
With
so
her
just wait.
compassion.
I'll make you laugh. But it's funny because it's not funny, but like, speaking of laughing and crying, I've kind of had this like weird relationship with crying ever since I started hormone replacement therapy, because I haven't this is actually the first time I've like actually cried in a long, long time. And sometimes I worry about that. Like when you haven't had like a good cry in a long time, I'm like, am I like being muted? But I'm not going to judge it. It is what it is. Because like when sometimes you go on medications or whatever that like kind of affects that. There's a part of me that's like, oh gosh, am I one day just going to have a breakdown because I haven't really, really cried. But thank you, Steve, for showing up and just giving us some good love here. So let's turn it to a cry. Let's turn it to a cry. Let's turn it to a laugh.
Since we're all crying.
Today's just going to be the cry club.
The crybaby club. Welcome.
You know what? Sometimes it's just going to be the crybaby club.
The order on the tapas menu today is a lot of tears, guys.
Bring your electrolytes because we're crying out a lot of salt. Anyway, okay, so my laugh, and I apologize to anyone who listens to the other podcast because I told this a little bit on the other show that I do, but there's an addition to this, so it's kind of, you're not getting a full repeat. But when I was booking my flight to come see you, Chelsea, my husband's a huge travel person. Like, he arranges a lot of the travel because he's traveled a lot, so he has points, and like whenever we do something, he's the planner. He likes to make sure we have like the right status so we can board first, like you name it. It's kind of bougie that way. So when I was looking for flights to come see you, I was like, I really want a direct flight. I don't want to do, any layovers or whatever. And he was like, well, I can use points and get you a flight. And I was like, that's okay. I'm going to just do it on my own. Sometimes I feel self-conscious about like taking advantage of his points, and you know what I mean? So I was like, I'm just going to book this on my own. Well, I found a flight direct and like to and from, but it's on Frontier. We don't fly Frontier, you guys. Like, we fly United. And I say that facetiously because I don't really care when I fly. Like, I'm
Guess
not.
what? This episode is brought to you by Frontier Airlines.
Frontier Airlines. So, and you notice that I'm actually speaking quiet because
Yeah,
I
I
don't
was
want
going
him
to
to
say,
hear.
what's the whispering happening?
Why are we whispering?
Yeah, why are we whispering?
Because if he hears, I have not told him that I'm flying Frontier, and I can't tell him because this is like a weird marriage thing that we have, or that I have, where sometimes I withhold information because I just don't want the conversation. I don't want the
Oh, interesting.
but this is our dynamic. Well, let me say this is my dynamic with him because I'm like, okay, so if I tell him I'm flying Frontier, he will flip out and try to get me on a United flight because he's so worried. He's like this very worried. He wants to make your life as easy as possible. If you have a problem, Scott wants to solve it for you. If you have I don't know, like at my parents' house, if their internet isn't working properly, he's going to go and make it like the fastest internet possible. Like anything, he wants to optimize your life. He wants you to get you the best speakers in your house. He wants you to get the best lighting system that he can help set up. Everything in our house is optimized for convenience. Like our lights turn on at 8:00. You know what I mean?
Okay, Joy, I'm going to interrupt you. This sounds hot.
It's amazing.
Sounds hot. I mean,
it's amazing, it's amazing.
Scott, can you teach other men this?
Yeah.
Because this is hot. You want to make sure people are comfortable. You want to.
He's a unicorn. He's a unicorn.
Yeah. So you don't want to have the conversation because it's too hot.
No. It's because
make you cold
because I'm just like, I did it and it's done. And he will want to swoop in and be like, he will want to make it an hour-long conversation of changing it where I'm like, it's already done. Like, just let it be. I'm going to fly probably what we would consider a shittier airline in his eyes. And he is so worried about my experience that I'm like, but it's okay. Like I come from lower middle class that I'm like, I'm scrappy. Like we flew standby my whole life. Like I was always the last on the, and so I hope this is making sense, but at the end of the day, it's hilarious that I refuse to tell him that I what airline I'm flying, to a point where he's like, oh, did you book your flight? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, are you flying United? And I said, yeah.
Nope.
You lied?
Wait, is he going to hear this podcast?
No, he doesn't listen to my podcast. No, he
Oh.
doesn't listen, but his office is right underneath me. And I'm like, please don't. I really hope he doesn't hear this.
I will say,
but
Frontier isn't that bad, though. I actually
Okay.
I flew Frontier for the very first time when I went to Vegas to meet up with you, and I actually had a fine experience.
Okay, great. The thing I'm worried about though,
Actually, it was
too,
a brand new plane too.
Oh, perfect. I'm manifesting that it's going to be perfect and fine and no issues. The only thing to be aware of is there's only one direct flight a day. If I miss it, it's fucked. You know what I mean? If anything happens,
then you call Scott,
it's going to be perfect.
And he'll get you on the next
Exactly.
flight.
That's actually very true. That's very true. So when I told this on the other show, because we were laughing about it, because Scott's just bougie that way, where I'm like, I just won't tell him because he will be like, I can't believe you didn't take me up on my points. My really dear friend Gary texted me. He goes, I love that after he listened to that podcast, he's a sweet friend from forever and has supported the other show forever, and so he listens, and then he'll text me things from the show, and he'll go, I can't believe that you are acting like telling Scott about Frontier is the equivalent of you telling him that you've had an affair. And I'm like, it is 1000% the same thing. It would require the same amount of explanation and conversation. And we just had a good laugh.
Dying over here. Oh my God, I'm dying.
Oh, so that's my laugh, because I'm like, you know what? It's ridiculous. But sometimes we just at the end of the day, for us, or for me, I should stop saying us, because Scott would be like, I can't believe you're being so ridiculous. But at the end of the day, for me, it's just saving a conversation that I'm like, it's just not worth it. You're going to make too big of a deal out of it. It's already done. I bless your heart for wanting me to be so comfortable. And to be fair, I've taken advantage of that so many times in our life, where he's like, oh, by the way, I upgraded you to first class on the way home, where I'm like, Jesus, you're the best. He's amazing in that way. But I was like, I just sometimes want to be my independent little self and handle it on my own. And I love you for wanting to optimize everything, but it's already done. So that's my laugh. My cry is, last week we were kind of talking about, and thank you guys so much for kind of walking me through just like the CBT of it all, of like just kind of getting out of your head and blending yourself up and doing the shaker bottle. Because I went to my parents' house this past weekend, which was awesome. I got out of the house for the weekend. We had the dogs. It was like exactly what I needed, and really noticing these small changes. Speaking of what we've been talking about and kind of what we'll talk about in today's episode, of just these small steps to start to feel better, and how when you see those changes, that you like stay with it, where I've been like, ooh, you kind of want to fall back to these old patterns, but just stay with it, like stay the course. Something amazing happened, like a small little hello from the universe, but I was looking for podcasts to listen to on my way home. And I found this one. I hadn't listened in a long time, but I used to listen to the Oprah podcast pretty religiously. And I think I saw a clip on Instagram, and I was like, oh, I'm going to listen to this episode. And I wasn't familiar with Mike Posner, but if you know him as a musician, he's had like some really big hits over the past 5 years. And he talked about hitting success, like kind of one of those artists that the first song they wrote was like this huge hit and made millions, and then he had another hit, and so got success really quickly to a point where he had to kind of reevaluate some of his priorities, because he ended up like saying, you know, all this money and fame didn't bring happiness, blah, blah, blah. So he went kind of recluse, like reevaluated his life and went on this walk across America. He legit walked across America, kind of took this spiritual journey. So this podcast kind of went through all of these lessons that he learned along the way. And the conversation was so good and rich and exactly what I needed to hear in that moment, where I'm like, oh, I love this. This is the universe and my energy and my work of stepping into new paths, new tracks, giving me what I need to keep me on that path. So it was a little bit of a cry moment, more of just like a warm heart moment, where I was driving home and I actually listened to it twice in a row, because it was like that big for me. So if you want to give it a listen, I'll link it in the show notes. But that was my cry. Rebecca,
Yeah.
we'd love to hear from you.
Thanks. Gosh, I was trying to think about something. This is kind of a laugh cry combo a little bit. So I think I've made the jokes about like going to Walmart when you use self-checkout, and then like they want to like harass you for your receipt to make sure you didn't steal anything.
Yeah.
And I always envision, I always have like I envision like this scenario, like the lady actually picks me up. Of course, like I'm a little kid in this vision. She picks me up by my legs and like starts shaking me upside down, and I'm like, I swear I don't have anything, and like, you know, my pockets are pulled out, like she's just trying to and I call it like the shakedown. Like I'm like, oh, they're gonna give me the shakedown. And every time I'm like, when I go a place, I'm like, I'm getting ready to get picked up by my ankles and shaken upside down, like to make sure like I don't have anything. So I always
just envision like candy cigarettes falling out of your pocket.
Like candy Jacks, you know, bubble gum. Like I didn't steal anything. It's just little kids shit falling out of my pockets.
All I imagine is little kid Rebecca getting shook down and her having all this fun stuff coming out of her
tiny hands.
And then her being like, I swear I didn't steal any of it. I brought it from home. Like, can't you see Rebecca's so cute?
Totally.
You were a cute little kid. Oh, my God.
I was.
You should post a picture of you as a little kid again, because it is
it's adorable.
cute.
But that's what I envision. Like, I'm that, like I'm like, why can't nobody just trust me? I swear I checked, roll the fucking footage, right? You have a camera of it. We'll act the footage. But so I have this joke about that every time. And so I was at Lowe's over the weekend, and they had self-checkout too. And I've never had anybody there kind of like do this overly assertive kind of cart stalking of anybody at the Lowe's, because I really don't care. They're just pretty helpful. Like, oh, do you need help finding the barcode, whatever? And I had the cart and just a few things and this lady actually came around and kind of like peered into the cart. Like, and I'm like, okay, that's weird. So, and I'm like checking out, blah, blah, blah. And it already put my name. My name is in the account because it was to my account, right? Because I get points. So I'm like, you guys have all the information that you need about this. Like, I'm not stealing anything. And then check out. And I feel her presence. Like, she's walked behind me and she's standing behind me. And I'm like, this is so uncomfortable because I feel like I'm doing something wrong, but I'm not, right? It's like that little, like, oh, you're in trouble because somebody's watching you. So I get the receipt and I turn around and I'm like, oh, hey, do you need to see this? And she's like, oh, and like she just like jumps back flabbergasted, like, oh, I was just going to wish you a good day. And I'm like, okay. And then I just leave. And then Robin was with me, so we were talking about it. And I'm like, I need to process this. I'm feeling all these emotions about the shakedown I just got. And this woman, like, is like, I was like, what was that about? And then, I don't know, Robin was kind of like in her own mindset. And I'm like, look, I said, I'm trying to process this with you and you're just being silent. Can you like say something to me? Because I'm like, what happened? And so we just decided that basically, because it's like her reaction was so odd for me asking if she wanted to see the receipt, because she obviously was giving me the shakedown with her eyes.
Right. Yeah.
Robin's like, yeah, I think she was trying to gaslight you to be like,
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, she like totally got caught. And I caught her with just asking, like, do you want to see my receipt?
Would you like to like just call it what it is instead of being shady and like trying to look over your shoulder? What did you buy that she was like worried about?
I bought, what did I buy?
I hope it was spray paint to like graffiti. Isn't that what kids steal?
No,
It
was some corner brackets. And
okay.
It was a pool noodle. Oh, what else did I buy? I don't know.
So it wasn't anything that you were like,
some screws.
I don't know, something that you were like obviously stealing. You know what I mean? Like it's not.
No.
It was not a situation where they're like, I think that
it wasn't
person
even
is
high
stealing.
dollar items.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't buying like lumber.
As a side note, was this the picture related to the photo you sent us where you were sitting on a bouncy ball to screw something in?
The items I purchased, I did need for that project, yes.
Okay,
because
great.
I had a shelf that I'd built some time ago out of wood to store like tubs in my garage. And then I'm like, I'm going to dismantle this. And actually, because there's like this counter that somebody else had made in there. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to put this shelf on top of it. So I had to dismantle that one and needed some brackets to make sure it was sturdy enough.
We're going to post that photo.
Okay. Yeah, we were concerned I might roll off, but I didn't.
That was to protect your knees, right? You were like, I don't want to be kneeling, so I'm going to sit on a bouncy ball instead.
I was on top of the shelf, which I couldn't stand completely up because I think the space was like 4 feet tall, and I'm taller than that, obviously. I'm not 4 foot. You know, if you're on your knees all the time screwing things in, that kind of hurts. And so I was like, oh, just hand me that exercise ball. I'll sit on that and screw this stuff in. And then Robin's like, don't you dare roll off of that. Because, you know, exercise balls are rolly. I'm like, oh, I won't. And then she's like, oh my God, I have to get a picture of this.
Okay, so was this your laugh or your cry?
You know, I think it was everything.
This was your laugh cry. In my head, Rebecca, and I'm going to say I'm a little disappointed in this story because I would want it to be like you were buying a knife or like rope or like something murderous and creepy.
Something murdery.
Or something like you were going to tag with graffiti. The idea that somebody would follow you like you're gonna steal for a fucking pool noodle and some brackets. This is very disappointing, Lowe's. You've really got to train your people. What are people actually stealing? Things that like they're gonna commit a crime with, right? Or
bleach.
Yeah, bleach, ropes, some gloves. I don't know, guys. Maybe, I don't know. And you know what I hate about that, Rebecca? I hate how it makes you feel.
Yeah.
That's the thing that is the most annoying is it's like, okay, helpful tip and trick to humans out there. And I could say this for myself with my own cry today, but you know, you can think about how you want to make another person feel. And if you're that hardcore with your job to like make somebody feel like they're doing something, then they need to not have self-checkout. They need to not have self-checkout. Like, be done with self-checkout because you're actually ruining customers' experiences by having them do the stupid checkout job that none of us are trained to do. We have to learn this job on the job and then pay and then get harassed.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Rebecca, what was
Hate
like
it.
one of the first stories you talked about checking out where they said something? I can't remember.
They were giving the stars, the 5
Oh, I give
star.
the 1 star review.
Yeah.
Because she's
Yes.
like, oh, it's 1 star. I'm like, yeah, because I'm checking myself out and I wasn't effectively trained.
Yeah,
There's
I give
no
myself
training.
5 star. When you guys come to visit, I want you to have a corrective emotional experience, which means that you have the same emotion in therapy. That means you have the same emotion that comes up, whether that be shame, guilt, anxiety, whatever. And then we correct it, because when you go to my Walmart, they don't even give you a receipt. You can just have it texted to your phone and nobody checks you.
I can
can't
have
wait.
that too, but
But no one's going to check you. So you get both. 1, no receipt, because they'll just text it to your phone. 2, nobody's checking you. They're saying, thank you
Nice.
so much and have a good day. We're going to do a corrective emotional
can't wait.
experience.
you don't want to shake me down right now.
Nobody wants to shake you down. They
Okay.
want you to live your best life in Gulf Shores, Alabama.
Oh,
That's
It's
amazing.
true.
I love it.
It's true. It is very true. They're very
it.
happy, nice, and kind. And listen, I was a huge Walmart hater prior to
until you
moving
move
here.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
except for where my dad lives.
They
They
do
a
have their
Walmart.
problems.
Yeah.
Okay. So today we're going to be talking about like how to get back to the essence of yourself, right? And so I was thinking about it, and it's kind of like peeling back all the noise and the obligations and roles you've picked up along the way and reconnecting with who you are at your core.
Undoing.
Yeah, a lot of undoing. And I would say it's not really always, I think sometimes when we're trying to get back to ourselves, we think about finding something new. It's really not about finding something new, but remembering what has always been there and what is there.
I love when you say that. It reminds me of a therapy intervention that I often do with clients, where I will ask them to try to connect with their 8-year-old sense of self. And the reason why I say 8 years old is because you're old enough to sort of have your personality start to be defined, but you maybe haven't hit puberty yet, unless you were like a very early bloomer. You maybe aren't aware of like the sexualization yet. Boys and girls are still equal physically. There isn't all of those things. And so I'm like, who were you at age 8? And even people who I've worked with who've had a tremendous amount of trauma will tell me a story about maybe where they, organize a sport for some kids in the community, or, in their neighborhood, or maybe they were really responsible at taking care of like a younger sibling, right? And so I'm like, okay, you were a caretaker, or you were a leader, or you were self-sufficient, or you were resourceful. And those can be like the essence of our true sense of self, right? Before we took on all of this other stuff. Not to say that at age 8 we hadn't, but there may be less of. So that's something that I like to think about, is like, who was I when I was 8 years old? Like, I can look at myself. I was writing, very creative. I was like this entrepreneur selling cookies and recycling people's cans. Like,
I love that.
I was also I've always been really empathic, but I was just like very attuned and aware of other people's feelings, other people's emotions. And then we look at how the years go by. And if you would have asked me at age 20 if I was creative, I would have said no. If you would have said, do you write? I would have said no. Like, as the teenage years, as all of those other things happen, then you collect this sort of false sense of self. You're trying on these different identities. You're trying to fit. You're trying to conform. You're hyper aware of what other people are thinking, saying, doing, and we're taking on all of this stuff. And so when I think of our essence, to your point, Rebecca, we aren't necessarily having to learn something or take on something new. We get to come back to that, like, I'm 8 playing kickball in my neighborhood right now, and it's no fucks to give, just living my best life in that moment.
So when you, like last week, Chelsea, when we kind of had this idea where you were like, I got back to the essence of who I was. Of course, you've been, living grief 24/7, but what made you decide, or like, I guess, how did you pick what that was for you, of like the essence of who you were? Because you chose to just like step into writing. How did you choose to like do that step versus something else?
Because
to get the ball
that
rolling?
is the quickest way for me to self-connect. So the quickest way for me to remember who I am is to start writing. And to write with no intention, no agenda, to just start writing. Even if it's, I don't know what the fuck I'm writing about. Why am I writing? This is boring. I don't want to write. Eventually it will crack. And as it cracks, then I start to get a lot of ahas. The other thing that's a quick shortcut for me to get to the essence of who I am, and anybody can do this, is when do you feel the most, I would say, like peaceful and connected? Yesterday when I went to the beach, and when I start to walk over the bridge, and I'll take y'all to this beach when you come, it's more of a private like area. It's not as busy. And all of a sudden I feel my breath, my exhales like, and it's almost like I've been holding in these emotions and the exhale, and it takes my breath away to see the water, to see the birds. It's like these ahas. It's very much like a sensory pleasure. And when I'm in that sensory pleasure, I feel myself. When I'm seeing things that are beautiful, when my body's immersed in the water and I'm like, ooh, I'm swimming. And then I'm like a little kid and I'm like, I wonder if a mermaid would swim like this. Like, I wonder, like, I start to get, you're like
playful.
Loose.
Yeah.
Yeah. Playful is very much a part of who I am. Playful, and I would say I'm very joyful. I'm a joyful person, but that's something that's even in my grief, even in the harshness of life, I can always find joy and gratitude. So when I think about the essence, it's like, how can I unlock what I already know? And so you can think about that if you're a listener, is like, what do I already know about myself? I know when I write, I self-connect. I know when I'm swimming in the water, I'm starting to create emotional flow, right? I know when I pause and I breathe and I do that exhale, that's like, oh, I'm breathing deeper. I'm connected to myself, and I know that. So you start to learn like these kind of, I don't know, you probably have them too, like these little tiny noticings. I don't think it's a word.
Observations.
Yeah. Self-observation. I'm making up words.
I was following.
Yeah.
It sounds like a great word to me.
Yeah. So you start to observe these things. And once you have the insight, we do this in therapy all the time. Once you have the insight, sometimes it's your therapist saying, did you notice you exhaled when you said that? So that's probably true to who you are. Did you notice that when you say this thing, you are slowing down with your words? That sounds a lot truer than that anxious story that you're telling. Did you notice that, whatever it is, and that gives you that pause and that aha? And of course, you can do this for yourself. So that's just like a little simple thing that I do. I don't know. What about y'all?
No, because it's a good call out for people who might not even know what that means of, well, how do I connect to the essence of myself? But even just saying, start to notice and start to observe when you're feeling your body relax a little bit, or when what happens to you if you go outside and you just like look at some birds playing in the tree, or whatever it is for you. Maybe it's just going on a walk and, listening to some music. To notice when you have maybe a moment of ease where you can exhale a little bit deeper, where you're not, racing through with your brain. So maybe that's just kind of like a step one for people who might not be familiar with that practice. I can't help but think about, well, two things. One, I kept having this visual as you were talking about how hard it is sometimes to find that connecting back to the essence of yourself, because the world is so busy and hard and we're dealing with so many things. But to continue to walk, to take baby steps instead of, anytime you might feel yourself taking a step back, think of how you can just take these tiny steps forward and keep propelling yourself forward. I can't help but think about the relevance of this episode that I listened to, and I will link it if people want to listen to it, but about how this artist was like, I completely lost who I was. I thought A, B, and C was going to make me happy, and I was miserable and really had to strip back to the essence of who he was, and found all these wonderful life lessons. But it's so important to think that, because we are so trapped into thinking of such and such thing is going to bring joy. There's the weird wiring that we cannot disconnect from of, the arrival fallacy of, when I get this, I will be happy, instead of the every single day small moments is the practice of being a human. And really the goal in life is to just continue to grow, not arrive, is to grow.
Joy, I think that's really important too, because I find that even when I meet with my own clients, that some people really struggle with this just being. And like you were talking about wanting something more or wanting something to change so it's better. And I get that, because we all want to optimize, right? But sometimes we just have to be okay with where we're at.
Well, last week you said, because remember when I was talking about like, I just want someone to hand me the solution because I don't want to feel uncomfortable. But that's the rub, is like, we just have to be where we're at.
That's what it is. Yeah. Yeah. Like we have to feel. I think a lot of us have gotten to a point where we don't want to feel things unless it's like joy. And like it even needs to be, we're so kind of numb to just little joy that it's like it needs to be like really big joy so we can feel it.
Like it's sparklers and fireworks.
Yes,
and yeah,
it's got to be big. And it's like, that's not the norm. And you're not going to get it. And I think I'm finding, people that I'm currently working with right now, and even in the past, like people just don't want to hurt. They don't want to have to feel the emotion. And so they're looking for that next thing. And then that basically takes you away from the essence of yourself. I was thinking too, like Chelsea, some of the stuff you were saying, I feel like this kind of goes along with what you were saying, but looking at the qualities that have always been you, no matter what's changed around you, that is the essence of you, the constant.
Yes, the constant. And I want to add something on what you're saying, Rebecca. And I think oftentimes we learn in our lives to choose comfort over vulnerability. And so when we're shedding these layers to come back to the essence of ourselves, who we are, there's vulnerability there because we piled up these layers to make our parents feel comfortable, right? Like I'm an empathic person, but that might make my parents feel uncomfortable for me to be too emotional. So I'm going to shut that down and suppress that, right? Or especially women, right? I'm an assertive woman. People don't love that. Especially, I've been accused of being called emasculating and things like that, which just isn't true. When I look at how other men speak to each other, if I speak the same way, all of a sudden it's emasculating, but because I'm a woman, that's actually not true. And so as we're building up these things, so then I'm a little softer, I'm a little more gentler, right? We learn to put on these things, or we learn to dress a certain way because it makes somebody else feel comfortable, right? When we talk about, like Rebecca, you were talking about like not wanting to wear something because of how somebody else would perceive that, right? So we are learning, and I would say this is very especially true for, not to categorize, but I would say women, especially our generation and the generations before us, I think we're getting a lot healthier, but we learn to put on all of these layers. I mean, my God, I've met women who are like, I can't go out of the house without my lipstick on because what? That would make somebody feel uncomfortable that you weren't fucking put together. Like what? So the vulnerability of the undoing is saying, I'm willing for you to be uncomfortable so that I can be comfortable with myself again. I'm willing to not please you. I'm willing to say the thing. I'm willing to wear the thing. I'm willing to do the thing, not in a way that's like abrasive and rude and being like, oh, look at me, but in a way that says, this is me speaking my truth. And if that's uncomfortable for you, that's okay because I matter more. The essence of who I am matters more. And I always say that you can abandon yourself or you can abandon another person. And we're abandoning all these things that don't serve us anymore, right? And we know they don't serve us because if it served you, you wouldn't be feeling anxiety. If it served you, you wouldn't be sitting there hashing through this conversation that made you feel neurotic. If it served you, you would just put on the thing that you wanted to wear without thinking about it because it wouldn't matter, right? So I think we have to learn to lean into the threshold of vulnerability as an opportunity. The more vulnerable we get, the more comfortable we get with that. And then the more vulnerable we can get. And then the more comfortable we can get. You're building a threshold. You're not just going to jump from, I've lost my essence, I've lost my true sense of self, and now I'm just going to put it all out there, right? That's not how it goes.
Yeah, it's like exposure therapy. Yeah.
It is exposure over and over with yourself.
But Rebecca, what you said about, we don't want to be uncomfortable. How we get to the place of like moving through that is hard. It takes a lot of work, but how would you recommend we like tap into that of like choosing us first? We're we're not wired for that. We're wired to kind of think of like what other people are thinking about us instead of really asking the question of like, what do I want from this whole scenario? Like, what do I want from this day? And I was even thinking about this morning, knowing we were going to talk about this, where I was like, it's so funny how I'm constantly thinking about others and like, am I doing the right thing today? And, you know, we're very self-critical, but not really being like, well, what do I want today?
I feel like this is the easiest answer, and probably people will be like, you know, duh, or like, okay, that's easy, is to start asking yourself that question. What do you want? Who are you at your essence? Like, sometimes I ask people that and they're like, I don't know. And it's like, okay, that's an automatic response. I don't know, but let's sit with it. How about you take some time and just think about, what do you want? You can write about it. You can do whatever you need to about it. You can make notes in your phone, but what is it that would maybe shift something for you? I think our brains are so wired for the negative, and we know the negative stuff we don't want. Like I could ask you all, like, where do you want to go for lunch today? And we could probably say what we don't want, but it's really difficult for us to say what we want. And I think a lot of that's because we haven't really thought about it. We know immediately our dislikes, because that has left us feeling a certain way that we also don't want to feel. But there's just so much that you just have to sit with yourself, I think, and ask yourself, what do I want? What little bitty blips could I change or, you know, do to make this change? Because I think I was thinking about this the other day. It's like a seismograph, you know, like for earthquakes. And like I don't know if I said it here or where I said it, but it's
you said it last week. Yeah, I remember you saying it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I remember you saying it. Yeah.
Brain.
Yeah.
We were looking for like a 6.0 on a Richter scale.
Yeah.
But if you look at it, just by different little shifts you make in your mindset, like you get like little blips, like a 1.0 or a 2.0, mm-hmm. and those are all super important to change.
Well, okay, so let's take, for example, like when I went to the mountains this weekend and I was like, ooh, I'm starting to feel some release and relief. And tell me if this kind of tracks, but like my typical response for like starting to feel relief is to question it and to get cynical and then to be like, yeah, but it's not going to last long. Or to be like, was that really a sign that this podcast landed in my lap? And I'm like, you know what, Joy? I'm done questioning whether or not it was like, this helped me and I'm going to roll into that. And I'm just going to like let it be what it was, which it made me feel great. And I'm going to stop being cynical. And I'm going to stop, like, I'm just like, oh, I'm done with that move of being cynical and being like, well, you don't really, like, there's this tiny little voice always behind that's like, mm-hmm. well, you don't really, like, you're always going to be miserable. And like, you know, whatever. You know, it's
like, I think we minimize like the effects something can have. Like you're like, oh, is this time in the mountains really going to make a change? Is it going to make that big blip on this Richter scale? And it's like, how do you know it's not?
But here's the thing. It didn't even matter like whether or not it was on the Richter scale. To me, I just stayed in the moment where I was like, I sent you all these videos the whole weekend when I was there. I was like sending you funny videos of my dad and the hummingbirds, because there's like a bazillion in their yard every summer. And I wasn't caring. It wasn't even on the radar. It was kind of like, I'm just enjoying this. And that's really kind of what I think we want to aim for, is to get into a moment where you're not feeling the noise as loud.
I'm going to reflect on what you're saying, Joy. And when I think about that, I think about people's, again, going back to that comfortability, our threshold for anything, pain, joy, these big emotions is what we're comfortable with. So again, we talk about that lazy brain. The lazy brain is like, this is too good to be true. We need to shut it down because then you're going to get hurt, right? We see this with relationships. We see this with jobs. We see this with people not applying for that promotion because they're afraid, because our brain is biased. It can only see where we've been. And we have to start creating that flexibility of, oh, my brain's just doing that thing because I'm at ease right now and I haven't been at ease for a moment. So this is a little unfamiliar. So let me continue to build my threshold for that. And what Rebecca was talking about, asking the question, I would say ask yourself the question of, is this what I want? Is this who I am? And slow down. There is no rush with coming back to the essence of who we are. That is a slow process of undoing, and it's building that threshold. You know, I used to have this client who I worked with, and I'll change identifying information, but they talked about this constantly, basically this idea that they would do really good and then all of a sudden everything would fall apart. And it was a self-sabotage. It was like, everything's good, it's too good to be true, when is this going to end, so let me throw a wrench in it. And we do that because when we throw the wrench, then we get to control how that sabotage works. But part of being human means that we're going to have wrenches in our lives that we did not choose. I did not choose for my husband to have cancer and die. I didn't choose the hardships that I've been through, other things that have happened to me in my life, horrible things that have happened to me in my life, just like you two have been through horrible things. Because you're a human being, we're all going to get a wrench. So you can save yourself by not being your own wrench that you're throwing into self-sabotage because you're uncomfortable. It's okay to be uncomfortable. Discomfort is a sign of growth. So when you think about being your true sense of self, go back to, how can I collect as much comfort and ease and authenticity and true sense of self? How can I collect those things? Because when that wrench comes, my God, you're going to need it.
You know what? I love this wrench analogy because what is a wrench used for? Undoing.
Ew, and it reminds me of you getting harassed at Lowe's.
And I'm thinking, I have all kinds of wrenches in my garage. There's all kinds of wrenches for people. So it's like they're unique to us. They also allow you to undo things that are like really stuck bolts. Wrenches are really great for.
Okay, so I have two takeaways as we wrap up here to kind of reiterate. Well, I have many takeaways, but two things that, as you were talking, was like, and I'm saying it out loud mostly for a selfish reason because I'm like, this really hits home, is like the patience. We have to be patient. We have to slow down. We are not wired to have 20-second TikTok clips of our life. Like, that's social media, but our life does not run that way. So we have to slow the F down with all of this process. It's not going to come in these like snippets of sexy things on the internet where we're like, ooh, that's pretty. And then the other thing that I didn't thank you for this aha moment, Chelsea, was like, ooh, I didn't realize that my questioning and my like cynicism or the self-doubt or being like, that's not really what it is a way of self-sabotage, and did not put that together where I was like, ooh, I do that. Okay, girl.
We all do, Joy. We all do. Except then we can pause and consider, am I self-sabotaging? And if I am, now I have a pause button, and now I get to choose, do I want to have a healthy response, whether that's to another person, whether that's to myself. And we see this in intimate relationships, right? People are like, oh, it's too good to be true. They sabotage and they ghost, or they shut people down, or they do whatever. And it's like, okay, well, I'm still going to be healthy, right? Because even if I don't know that, like, that's something that I want. That's something that I want to do. Like, we can continue to say, I want to be happy, so I'm just going to lean in and enjoy these birds. I want to be these things. And eventually the want is I am these things, because that is the essence of who you are. The essence of human beings is beautiful and colorful and diverse and rich in different experiences in life and all these different things. And that part we get to enjoy.
You just put and I know we got to wrap up, but like you just put a name to, I remember when Brene Brown came out with like one of her very first TED Talks where she talked about vulnerability in the sense of like looking at your child sleeping at night and having so much love in your heart and so much admiration and adoration. And then the second you think, oh my God, I'm terrified of losing them. And that's what we're talking about here of like, yes, those both can be true, but can you just sit with this love? Because no matter how much fear you have for losing someone, you can't like beat vulnerability to the punch, so to speak. So that's kind of the piece of staying in the joy. And the more we can kind of like stay in the joy, and I'm not saying like that's where we have to live 24/7, but to lessen the voice of being like, and it's all going to end, because that's just like the self-sabotage. Okay, we could go on forever. Next week, we're going to talk about how to limit self-abandonment. We mentioned this on this episode, and we are going to dive into what that looks like of how to, we talked about coming back to the essence of who you are, but how to really choose yourself every day in all aspects of your life, friendships, family, jobs, relationships. So can't wait to dive into that.
I love that, Joy. Choose yourself. Yeah, think about that. That's kind of your homework between now and next time. Like, how are you going to choose yourself?
We can't wait to hear from you. So you can follow us on the socials at Laugh Cry Club. Email us laughcryclub@gmail.com if you want any specific topics discussed or have questions for us to answer on the show. But as always, we're just grateful that you're here. And we know you have a million and billion podcasts to listen to. So the fact that you choose to listen to us we are so grateful and we appreciate you. So we're glad you're here. Thank you for hanging for another week. We love you. Choose yourself. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
That's life, baby.